Welcome to the channel and Empyrion Galactic Survival, and this is an interesting game, and I'm going to start this video by reading a description of what this game is. It says Empyrion Galactic Survival is a 3D open world space sandbox survival adventure. Build powerful ships and space stations and planetary settlements to explore, conquer and exploit a variety of planets. Discover the mysteries of Empyrion. And I think that description sums this game up. It is quite an intriguing game. It's come a very long way. It first came into early access in 2015 and it's still in early access at the time of recording this in September 2017. But during that time it has come from a pretty rough old game when it first came out. When I've watched a couple of videos of when it first came out, and it's now getting to the point where I'd say that maybe it's another 6 months or so and they'll be talking about saying the game's finished. In a couple of months, release 7 is going to be out, and there's going to be very much more focus on the graphics, although the graphics have also come a long way. Now, what I will say, guys, is this is not the start of a new Let's Play. This is very much a overview video of the game itself, the initial learning curve. So we'll be doing the tutorial, because one of the things that put me off when I first encountered this game was the learning curve, and to be honest, I didn't have the time to really get into the game, and so I kind of put it on the back burner. But with the release of Alpha 6, they've done quite a lot of work on the start, and of course I've now got some time to start looking at the game along with other games, and that's why recently I did a first look of Planet Nomads, and in a couple more weeks time I will be doing a first look at Osiris New Dawn. Anyway, I think that's enough on the introduction, guys. I don't want to ramble on too long. Just get into the menu system. You can see there's quite a lot of options, and I'm going to go through them from the bottom up. We're going to look at player setup, and you can see here this is your avatar, and I know a lot of guys would look at this and say, God, it's very crude compared to other games, and I think this epitomizes the approach of the way this game is developed. Many games, they do lots and lots of flashy graphics and then they get round to try and put content in. And with this game, they seem to have gone the opposite way. They've worked on the content and the structure of the game, and then started to work on the graphics once they've got that pinned down. And therefore this looks a bit rough, but then it's a first-person survival game. But you never know, they might actually improve this, and you can play male, female, change their skinny, hero, average, curvy. Let's play hero. So, and again, you don't see much of the avatar when you're playing unless you go into third person or something like that. Now the game does have a very strong multiplayer element to it. Now what I would say, if you're new to the game, do single player first to learn it. It has a very, very steep learning curve, and unless you've got a friend who will take you through how to learn to play the game in multiplayer, I think you're far better off learning the game in single player or in co-op. There's a co-op option, and I do really recommend that, guys. I mean, I've only played multiplayer once and it turned into a little bit of an embarrassment, besides the fact that I have problems with my internet connection. And resume game is obvious that you can click on that and it will let you choose any one of a series of save games. And I think this new game options kind of shows how complex this game can be, even from the outset. And you can see here, this is what's called the default scenario for a single player. You can see you can name the game. That's really for save game purposes. You've got the game mode, survival, and creative. Creative is very useful for working on projects, because what you need to be aware of is this game has a very, very strong building element, which I will not be covering in this video. Maybe I'll do it in the future. And if you're going to work on a very big project, playing in creative mode might be a very good way of kind of practicing that building before you actually get into the playing the game properly. And again, it returns back a bit to multiplayer. You know, if you want to build some of these big projects, creative mode might be a good way to experiment with it. And the seed sets the planet structure. You can see the seed determines on how the world is procedurally generated, and the same seed means the same world. And you can set it, or you can just do a random. We'll just do a random like that. And this is an interesting setting. is the difficulty. You can choose easy, medium or hard, and then you can adjust what you want all the way through. And again, unless you know what all this actually means when you're first starting, I suggest you just choose easy or whatever setting you want. And then of course starting location is planet. Aku is the kind of default tutorial learning planet. It's got, as you can see, it's temperate. There's no great radical temperature differences, there's no radiation. It's got oxygen, which is quite important. It's got a reasonable set of resources, and you can see it starts with an escape pod, which is a fairly typical start, and then you can move on to Omicron, which is a little bit tougher. It's got no oxygen, but again the temperature range has got a little bit more different, and you've now got some radiation coming in. And then you've got I think this one is Nigu, and you can see here the radiation is building up, and you can and then of course you've got this one here, Masperon, which has got a massive temperature range, high radiation, no oxygen, and obviously, as it says here, difficulty ultra. And if I click down here, guys, you'll see that there's a co-op server there. There's also scenarios, and it's very, very interesting. If I flick through, this is the default multiplayer, which is similar to the single one. I won't go through that, guys, but you can see here that there's no creative mode in multiplayer by the look of it. And this is a scenario that people have kind of created and gone down, and you can see this one I think starts in a building, and this is a one that's been added recently. You can see it says Shadow of Light, and I think this is where you can work an agent, and I think this is another example of where this game is going, in the sense that they've got the core content working, they've done the graphics, now they're starting to develop the game to give it some more depth and a bit more lore and something to do. Because one thing I will say, guys, is if you're into really mission-led games, this may not be the game for you, because this is very much about building and defining your own path. But as you can see there, and this is what's kind of intrigued me, that they are now starting to give some content and some structure there, which I think could be very interesting in the multiplayer level. Anyway, but this is the tutorial. Again, even this tutorial is interesting because you can actually set a seed, you can actually choose a difficulty. Obviously Aku is fixed. Now the difficulty setting is quite interesting, because say for example you've played the game 6 months ago and then you've had a layoff and you've come back, bearing in mind that this game's changing quite quickly, and even if you played the game like I did 3 or 4 months ago, coming back in, everything looks slightly different, things have been changed. Well, this allows you to redo the tutorial, but with a bit more of a challenge. And you can see here, so you can go in and use your knowledge of the game to actually change it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this on easy, because what I want to try and do is get through the tutorial in one video, which is going to be a little bit of a challenge, guys. And I think that's about it. I think I've covered everything. Obviously, if I go back, the tutorial kind of is equivalent to what I've just been showing you. It's just that it's a kind of fixed tutorial, so you can go back and do it over and over again. But I think we're just going to go with this, and we're just going to click start. As you can see, guys, this is very much a classical start to a survival game, and the scenario is you're in a capsule coming to ground, you're going to crash. There's a lot of mountains in this start, which could be a lot interesting. What you can do is kind of look round and see all the resources being revealed, which is quite useful, especially when you're kind of starting in normal mode. Now, don't be too fussy about where the capsule lands, as long as you do not land. As I was about to say, do not land in the water. And again, you've even got the option here. I've got to do this quickly, guys, because my capsule's rolling away. And unlike Planet Nomads, the capsule does not stay very long. It kind of disappears after a period of time, so you need to grab the contents. Not that there's much in the way of contents in there, before it actually disappears, and if it had rolled off down here it may have disappeared before you go. And I think before I kind of get into doing the tutorial and to talk about the interface, you can see here the changes to the graphics. When I first kind of looked at this game, the graphics were very chunky and looked very dated, but you can see the way the graphics have improved. It's very, very atmospheric now. And I'm just going to go pick something. Sorry, I'm digressing from the tutorial. So, and if I go into here, you can see down the bottom left you've got your primary statistics: health, food, stamina and oxygen, and the icons across the top is a helmet. And because the Aku is got an oxygen atmosphere, you can press U and take the helmet off. The O2, as far as I know, says that this is an oxygen planet, and the symbol next to it I think means that the radiation is okay. Don't quote me on that, guys. As I say, I'm not an expert on this game because I just haven't put enough time into it. In the top right you get an overview. It says morning, cloudy, mountains. Now the timer countdown, if I show you there so you can see it, is how many minutes to sunset. And then next to it you've got the radar. Below that you've got the ambient temperature, which does change. Like, we're up on the mountain, so it's a bit colder than it would be down on the plain. And below that is the radiation, and then below that we actually get the kind of tutorial, and it says open tab. And I'm going to close the tab because it says here equip tool belt, equip pistol, medkit, and antidote and radiation. So we're going to go here. Now the way this game clips is you have to click to drop. So it's click to pick up, click to drop. It's not, doesn't drop automatically once you're actually over the thing there. And you can either close the window by clicking on the X or by just pressing the tab key. And you've got the messages there. If I get down onto the grass, now there's some creatures just behind this tree on the right. They're friendly. That doesn't mean everything in this game is friendly, but these are friendly. They're not. If you attack them, they just run away. But there are other creatures in here, like spiders, which will attack you on sight. And what was I going to say? Okay, if you want to see the messages, if you press the full stop key, it will actually show there, and it gives you. So it says use sprint to shift, J for jetpack, space to jump or jetpack jump, L for light, U for helmet, and escape to check options. And if I press J, you can see the jetpack comes on and off. So you've got to toggle between the two to decide between jump and jetpack. Now the next part in the tutorial, which I think is a very, very big change, and this also applies to single player mode, guys, is that you now have a base to operate, and that is actually really helped this game. And because originally you would crash on the planet here, and then the first thing you would have to do is survive and then build a base. And the building in this game is very much block orientated, but it does present quite a challenge, and I think having an opportunity to learn the game basics, especially if you're new to the game, before you plunge into building, is very, very useful. And this is quite interesting. This is the first time I've actually had a base that's actually in trees. That could make life a little bit fun, actually, guys. Now the base you get when you first start isn't fixed. There's all sorts of random bases, from rear ends of ships to huts. And what we're going to do is come round here, and you need to explore. Oh look, there's an ammo box. Okay, so we're going to grab that. What we got here? LSR change biofuel. I'll take that. Oops, nope. Got a game hung up a little bit there. And it says here we've got to find the fuel tank. Okay, now the fuel tank takes power cells, and you need the fuel tank charged in order to use and power up the base. Actually, the fuel tank's upstairs. Okay, so let's get into the base. I mean, sometimes the fuel tank's outside. You've got to hunt for it. There's a fuel tank and an oxygen tank. Oh, this looks cool. Oh, the sound's gone off here. And sometimes it takes a little while to find things in here. Oh, small O2. Oh, so the fuel tank is actually, you can access it from above. Okay. Now this is a tutorial, so they were going to give you power cells, so you can drag all the power cells up and you get a charge of 13% in your fuel tank. Obviously if you were playing this in normal mode, you would actually be a bit more conservative about putting fuel in there. And what it says here, okay, activate base, you press Y and the power comes on, and we've got now lights. And if I show you here, you can tell that you've activated the base by these blue areas here. Now it's not important on Aku, because what it actually means is the fact that that's your oxygen shield, and if you've got your oxygen tank charged here, you have oxygen to breathe inside the base. But if you're on a hostile planet, that could be very, very important. And what we're just going to do now is the next one in there. It says the equipment locker. You've got a few things here. Now see where it says the core. The core is the way you found bases and build ships. It goes into kind of a starter kit which you actually use, but I'm not going to talk about that. And as you can see here, that the game has a farming element. Again, something that's outside of the tutorial. And what you can actually do is come here. Now you start with a fridge, and I think I want to emphasize this, guys. If you mouse over goods, like some of the things I've harvested here, you see there's a perish time, and if you don't actually put stuff in the fridge, things will perish over time, even non-food items. So you've got to be there. But for plant fibers it's okay. LSR change used for reloading a weapon. Please refer to the corresponding weapon to match information. There's a lot of items, things to build in this game, which is absolutely phenomenal, but it can be a little bit overwhelming to start with. I think press F, and here there's like a switch. If you press the switch here, see this kind of mauvey lit up area. That is a growing area. It looks like we've actually got a couple of actual growing zones here, so that could be worth looking at. But I'm getting off the tutorial again, guys. So, and it says equip the constructor. So now this takes back to pre-6 release, where the constructor would have been the first thing you put down, and what you do is you drop the constructor into there and press the key to select, and left mouse button to build. And this is your basic survival constructor. I think we're all pretty familiar with the routine, and what it tells you in the tutorial is to build a bike. And over on the right hand side here, you've got all the templates. When they're red, it means you can't build them. And what I'm looking for is the motorbike. Now it's not building because it's not switched on, so you've got to actually switch it on, and it goes round here. Now I quite like this template system. It's quite interesting because if you see the coloured dots at the top here, when you see something like this, like the core, it's got a red, yellow, green and blue dots there. That is indicating that the core is used in all these vehicles. This one here says sensor and signal blocks is used in bases and capital vessels. And so, and see, food disappears. These are the standard templates, and then this kind of shows you the building blocks. So this is a kind of a inbuilt guide to what you need to build things, which is quite useful. You can see here what we're going to do now is we've built the motorbike, and we've got to equip the motorbike. And of course I didn't take it out of the, because I was talking, so we're just going to bring the bike down onto here. And again, it's left click to deploy the bike. Now what I will say, guys, is this bike can be quite interesting, but first we need to do is deploy a map marker. And the way to do this, guys, is the tutorial takes us in the direction of generating oxygen, so you might as well just set this. You can name it oxygen accept, and you can see this planet is, you can spin it round, and the little blobs on here are mineral deposits. You get points of interest appear as you go there. There's native villages. They've added a lot more in the way of points of interest in recent things. Now, what I will say is the bike takes a little getting used to. especially near water. And you can see here, if I can turn it, if I drive along the coast here a little bit, and see I took my fingers off the keys and it still kept going. It's very, very easy, guys, to end up in the water on the bike. So, and what happens is if the bike goes underwater, you've then got to swim down and go and get it, which can be a little bit annoying. But I think I'm just going to demonstrate the swimming as well. Sorry guys, this is again another digression from the tutorial. Now, if you go into the water with nothing in your hands, you swim automatically. See this? I mean, this water is not very deep. If you press C, you can swim underwater, and you can see straight away it tells you you need your helmet. And the main reason you'd go underwater is to find seaweed, which you need for biofuel. But I'll talk a bit more about that in the future. And if you kind of go out, I'll just get out back into above the surface. I mean, if you press the space bar, you kind of jump up and get back to the surface. Now what I will show you guys is, I'm just gonna put the drill on. Now if you go into the water with something in your hand, a pistol or a drill, you automatically walk along the bottom. So that's something it's not explained very well in the tutorial, and it's something that you've got to be aware of as you actually, well, because you will be going underwater. Whoops, sorry about that. Anyway, back onto the tutorial. They want us to build an oxygen generator. Now again, because this planet actually has oxygen, it's not that important, but as I've just demonstrated, guys, you need oxygen to actually go underground. And what you can do to pick this up, if you right click, you can split the stack and bring one energy unit over. If I'd come over with all of them, it would have dropped one in there, and you can see it disappears because it charges up there, and any spare ones sit here. I'm not going to load it up with energy because you can see it's going to produce the next oxygen in 105 seconds. So what's the next thing? It says break stones, pick up ore. Okay. And now obviously this is a procedurally generated game, so we've got to find some stones. There's some stones here, and what I find is when you're roving around, guys, pick the bike up. Oh, who's this? Oh, these are the natives. Now a quick tip, guys, is they tend to travel in groups, so if there's one here, there's other ones here, and they walk around. They are generally friendly unless you attack them, and if you attack them, they can be a bit tough to kill. And the other thing, guys, is don't kill animals near them, because what actually tends to happen is that if you kill animals, they will then start to attack you. It's almost like they defend the local life form. And you can see while I was doing that, I left click to use the drill, and it reloaded. Now you can see the messages: cannot drill this, please switch to drilling mode. You press right mouse button and click the bottom. That gets you in stone collection mode. And did we get anything? Yes, we got that little bit here. Now if you look in the bottom left there, you saw all the resources that I picked up. If I do it again, no, this doesn't. Okay, that doesn't want to pick up. Okay. And I think it's worth noting, guys, that everything you do in this game adds to the, how can you explain the, so if I go here, if I press F to pick an Aku berry, you can see I got 150 experience points for that. So doing things in this game gives you experience, which is then important towards actually getting things done and built. And the tutorial now wants us to eat lunch, and you can come in. There's two ways you can eat lunch. You can actually, whereas it says here, shift right mouse button here, or you can drag the food down onto your action bar at the bottom, and then left select and left click. So, and that, I think that's the key guide things. To get something to work, you've got to, if you select the button it loads automatically, but say to use the drugs you've actually got to go in here and then left click. It doesn't get used automatically. Anyway, now I'm kind of entering the grind part of this tutorial now, because it says we've got to mine all these deposits. Now I'm not actually going to mine all these on camera, guys. What I'm going to show you is how the mining actually works, and what you need to do is first is activate the mining by basically right clicking, going here, selecting the top of the hoop, and what you see is all the resources I've discovered listing around here. And we're going to start with the silicon. And now the way you find resources on here, unlike games like No Man's Sky where it's all on the surface and you just look for things, in this game the resources are underground, and what you've got to do is kind of walk towards them, watch the distance drop, and once the distance gets to a certain point, and that's about it, 4.2, 4.3, it means you're over the resource. And what you've got to do then is start digging away through the surface like this, and I think we're kind of like digging through sand here actually. And what you want to do is kind of clear an area off so you can see what's underneath. And what happens is when you find a mineral, it changes colour like this, and then what you do is you dig into it. Right guys, as you're mining you can see I'm actually dropping down. The other thing I will point out is that as you mine down, the rocks break off. They kind of break off at random amounts, but you've got to pick things up. But if this is putting you off, guys, don't worry. Once you've got the tier 2 drill and the more advanced tools, what actually happens is that it starts to pick the stuff up automatically for you. I think there's also an option to do automatic mining, so doesn't mean you've got to go around doing this all the time, although like I think we all have to accept that as part of survival games you do get this grind. I'm just going to keep picking this up. Now the one thing I will say, guys, is you can see here while I've been talking I've actually been kind of digging myself into a hole. Now you don't really want to do too much of this. What you want to do is keep it fairly shallow. I mean, I've been told that is good etiquette for multiplayer, because obviously you're going to be sharing resources with other people, and the last thing what you want to do is kind of build a deep shaft for people. And you can see I've now picked up all the resources in here, and we're just going to jetpack up. I think they've actually boosted the jetpack a little bit now, because once the jetpack was a little bit weak and you could get stuck in quite a big hole like that. Oops, you fell down in it again. Now what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to go mine all the remaining ores off camera, because it does take a little while. But what I will say is, if you look in the bottom right where it says ammo, that is actually the fuel for the drill. And if I come in here, you will see that I've only got 4 refills of biofuel, because the ammo type, as it says there, is biofuel. And 4 sounds a lot, but if you get really enthusiastic with your mining, you will find that you can run out of biofuel, and the game doesn't actually tell you, if you're new to the game, that how to get biofuel. Or it says, if you go back to the survival thing, it says biofuel, you look it up and it says seaweed, but it can be a bit tedious doing that. It pays, when you're actually doing this tutorial, just to be a bit conservative. Only harvest enough of the resources to fulfill the tutorial. I mean, you can always come back. Actually, I'm quite lucky here. A lot of the resources are quite local, and I think we're just going to head for the iron deposit. It says I found copper. Did I walk over copper? Oh, there's copper over there. Oh well, never mind. I'm going to do the iron next. And you can also see that the sun's now going down, and I'm going to have to take a little bit of a chance here, guys. And again, it's worth kind of mentioning that if you're not playing the tutorial, hanging around in a forest at night is probably not a particularly very good idea, because forests is where the spiders start to hang out, and spiders can poison you. They're quite aggressive. They will attack you. But in the tutorial you can get away with this. Well, I'm hoping I can get away with this anyway. So right, I'm just gonna come here, 18.3. I think that's about it, and we'll just start digging down. Anyway, I'll see you in a little while, guys, once I've actually dug out all the resources to fulfill this part of the tutorial. Obviously, if anything interesting happens, I will cut back to the video. So I'll see you in a minute, guys. Actually, guys, I've just come back because the sun's setting, and I just wanted to show you the God rays coming through the trees. Look at this for the graphics. How about that? They've really done some fantastic work on the graphics on this game in the last few releases. I mean, that is I really like that, to be honest. I'll just grab that. Anyway, that was just a quick aside, guys. You can see I've just started to expose the iron. Well, welcome back again. I thought I'd show you this, how dark it gets on the planet at night, but you've got a light, which is useful, but it's got a fairly limited range. So again, it kind of emphasizes the hazards of walking around this planet at night. And you can see we're just closing in on a cobalt deposit. Yeah, so this kind of gives you an idea of how dark it is on the planet and how difficult it can actually be to get around and do anything. 16.9, 16.4, 3. I think that's about it. So again, I'll see you in a little while, guys, once I've actually mined the cobalt. Well, here we are, guys. I've managed to get to Promethium, and I think this is interesting. It kind of illustrates that sometimes you can actually find stuff right on the surface, and you can see the Promethium is a very bright blue, which makes it very easy to find. Now, Promethium isn't actually a mineral as such, but it's the core to actually your energy generation. You use it to make energy cores which power your base and various other components. I'm just going to clear out this bit here, and then we're just going to dig down. So it's a very key resource that you actually need to collect. I'm just going to... So this kind of illustrates that how far you got down. I mean, I dug some copper before this, and I had to go down quite a long way before I actually found the copper itself. I think, you know, so I had quite a big hole before I even found any copper. So this kind of illustrates how this mining process works. Just gonna keep making a reasonable crater here. Just keep digging through here. Just gonna grab the pellets. Again, just gonna kind of go up a bit on the edge here, so we can. And of course, what you can do is you can keep digging away at the top here if you've got the resources. I've actually done quite well actually with the use of the biofuel. So we'll just kind of come down here, grab that. We'll just keep digging this out. It is tedious, guys. I admit I'm not the world's greatest fan of grinding out resources, but it goes here. And see the red message that's come up on the left hand side. As soon as you've done the ore mining, go back to the base and process the ore. Now if you do the Promethium before you completed the other mining, if you now if you mine the Promethium before you actually complete all the other elements, that message will come up, but just ignore it, guys. Don't be tempted to actually go back to the base and refine your elements, because if you do, what will happen is when you get to this point, if you've processed ores, it won't show up ores as processed, and if you've processed all the ores that you mine, then you've got to go and mine them all again. So that's a quick tip, guys. Whoops, there's some raptors we just passed. Oh no, there's the creatures. but off in the background here, I think if you, so we've just seen the tribesman. If I go round in a circle, see the raptors in the dark? I can't see them very well. Okay. So there are creatures in the dark wandering around. So we're going to go off back to the base, guys, and I'll see you once I get back to the base. Yep, I don't want the reminder. There we are, we're back in the base. And again, I'm just going to get off and pick the bike up. And it's absolutely pitch dark. It's a little bit annoying that when you actually get off the bike, your light switches off. Anyway, so here we are, guys. We're back at the base, and of course what we're going to do is just click here, and all you do is you quite literally drag in like this. As I say, what you can do is right click to split, but obviously we're just going to put everything we can into here, all the ores, I think. And I think that's it. This is perishable, and what you do is you quite literally, I'm just going to click once on all these to manufacture them, but what you can do is you just keep clicking to add, and of course we're going to put the promethium cells in there, and of course this takes time. So once you get into mass production, you queue things up here, and what you can do is while that's actually building, we can do it, we can go and put the food that I've harvested in the fridge. So we'll go here and just put some more of this stuff in the here. Got some aku berries. Maybe we'll keep the aku berries. They got a reasonable no, they don't last that long, so we can put that in there. That's got a perish time as well, so that doesn't. That's alien plasma, plant fibers. That's got a perish time as well, so we'll just drop that in. You can hear the local creatures close by. Now beds are a quick way to recover stamina. In fact, actually I need to eat a bit, so let's just use up some of these aku berries that I've been harvesting before they perish. Now if they do perish, you get a kind of a, I think it's called perish food, and what that can be used then for, I think it's used for farming cobra leaves. Perish time, cobra leaves perish. So sometimes it can be advantageous to let things perish, believe it or not. Just going to get that in there. Just take that up. Obviously got people close by. So we're just going to come back out here. This should be finished now. Yep. And what you can do now is we'll make some fuel packs. We're going to make quite a few fuel packs. We're just going to let that run. You can see, you keep clicking until it goes red, and then it actually tells you. And it says here, now we've got to go kill an animal. Now, hunting at night can be very, very tricky, guys. One, it can be potentially dangerous, and two, it can be quite tricky to actually find creatures to hunt. So, well, the first thing I'm going to say is in the tutorial you get yourself an assault rifle with ammunition, and of course you press R to, and 3 R to reload, and we got a reasonable amount of ammunition. And the question now is we've got to try and find something creature to hunt. I'm going to give it a go in the dark, but what I would recommend if you were doing the tutorial is you actually wait for daylight, guys, because as I say, hunting in the dark can be a little bit tricky. And what we're going to have to do is drop our bike down, and you can see here, simply because you can't see anything, and you've got to be, especially in trees. So I think we'll try and get out onto the plain, and I'm certainly not gonna, well, we could hunt that, but he's gonna get a bit aggressive. Okay, I could get myself killed here, guys, so what we're gonna do is get close enough, and what I'm gonna do is turn on the jetpacks on, and what you can do is And what you do is you jetpack back, and here comes a spider. Ha! Oh. Okay. Okay, we need to get the med kit. Sorry, panicking guys. 7 left click. And we got a poisonous bite as well from the spider. As we talk about all the poisonous spiders here, and you can see we've got alien parts. We'll grab that. Close, and we're poisoned. And I'm just going to get back to the crashed shuttle, and I think I've got to see now. I think that, yeah, it's the antidote pills. So just going to hope that gets rid of the poison bite. Ha! And being poisoned really drains your stamina. Okay. Ha! That went a little bit quicker than I expected, guys. But it goes to show you that hunting in the dark can be very dangerous. I mean, you're far better off hunting in daylight, because that spider kind of crept up on me, and this is part of the interest of the game, is things can sneak up on you. Maybe if I put the light on I'll be able to see what I'm doing. And of course the next part is we've got to create a meal. So what we've got to do is come here, and we'll just put the meat in here, and what you can do is make salami. I'm just going to make a few salamis just while I'm talking. I mean, we're nearly to the end of the tutorial now, guys, so we're still going. Okay, we've made 4 salamis. Now what you can do, just quick overview, guys, is you can queue up at all sorts of stuff. So let's say, for example, let's do this now. So we can, we can go like this, and it will just keep queuing up here, and of course we're going to need more Prometheum. So this is how you actually build, and we need some cables and metal parts, and just load it in there, and you can just queue it all up, and it will just build up here. And what it does is, if it's in the output, it will still be included for building, and you can just let that run. And that's basically what you've got to do to create resources. You don't need to hover, it will just keep building up while you're actually off doing other things. So that's kind of the way you want to do things. You put, I don't think this has got a perish type, that's alien parts. And I think that's it for the main running around. And again, just to kind of show you guys, if you click here, it says stamina recovery, so you get your stamina here. It says open control panel. I think control panel is P. Yeah. Now this is a kind of overall control of your base. So once you've got this open, like, instead of, if you want to put up the fuel, what you can do is click here, drop fuel in here to recharge. You can also manage your oxygen, you can access ammunition, and you can also control the base here. And the key factor is, guys, that you also get an overview of what's in the base here, and you've got like where is it, bed, fuel tank, fridge. So if you click fridge here, click here, you've got an option to access the fridge from here as well. And the only thing is it kind of drops you out. And the other thing is, so this kind of gives you an overall control over that. I'll have a quick run through the stuff at the top here, but we're just going to complete it by, actually let's go through this, guys. So the top, you've got your overview of your player, and of course what we got here is the tech trees, which the tutorial doesn't mention. And the way the tech system works here, you get points for leveling up, and then you can select options when you reach the appropriate level, and you get a tech tree for each type of their capital vessels, small vessels, hover vessels, miscellaneous. I mean, in here I certainly would want the cargo block and the small ammo. Tools, we certainly want the multi-tool, we need to unlock that. and of course here you've got the T2 drill, which you need to unlock, but I need to be level 7. Now weapons, there's quite a lot. Now I got the assault rifle for free, but everything's wear out in this game, so you need to build new ones, so you need to do that. Base, in the base, O2 station, certainly would need defense turrets. Again, one of the problems with the early game was that you got into combat very, very quickly. Probably the ability to, what I'm looking for is hangar doors, you've got aircraft. I mean, there's lots and lots of stuff in here. And like I was saying, guys, is the game has a very, very steep learning curve. So you've got fuel tank, you've got O2 station, don't really need an O2 station. You've got plant glow for setting up planting areas. I think we covered most of this. Repair station, ammo locker, ventilator, I think that's new. Just have another quick look through. Sentry guns are, I think, related to capital ships. So you get devices for here. Let's have a quick look. Miscellaneous. Got the cargo boxes. Got there. Water generator. I think that's about it, guys. So that's it. Factions is more related to multiplayer. You can create your own faction and you can invite people to join it. PDA, this relates to the tutorial, so it's make yourself at home. You get the missions, which, as I said, is the beginning of giving extra content to the game. So you've got clans at Baku. Blueprints, this is quite interesting, guys, especially if you're like me, you're not excessively creative. It means that you, and also when you want to get an idea of what can be built. I mean, if we go through here, I mean, you've got all sorts of these ships that you can build here, guys. This gives you ideas of what, from very small and simple right up to tier 5 very complicated ships. And I think you could probably obtain extra ones from there, and I think you can get, these are the full-size capital ships. You can see here you've got to be level 12, and I mean you've got, I mean if you get up to here, look at this, guys. I mean some of these ships are, but also look at the resources. 22,023 iron ingots. So that kind of gives you an idea, and what you can do is, so if you don't really, or if you want to learn to build, or you just don't want to spend a lot of time building a capital ship and you want one very quickly, if you've got the resources, you can actually use a template. Again, marketplace is more related to multiplayer. Registry, this is here, and then we've now created the Robinson protocol, and what this does is it allows you to manage your ships and bases from the registry. And I think if you switch it on, eventually what should happen is the base should show up in here, and it allows you to manage your ships and various other bits that you build from a single point. You don't have to go and click on individual items, which I think is a very cool idea. I like that. And of course we've got the map here. This is the planetary map. Now what I will say, guys, is there's at the moment there's a kind of force field around the pole. You can see the pole here, and if you approach the pole you will run into a kind of golden honeycomb force field, but maybe they'll fix that in the future. And of course we've got the sector map when you get out into space, and once you actually visit these systems in your ship, the sector map grows. And of course we're back to the control panel here. I think that you've got to put that on HUD. And it says show on HUD, and then I think if we go back to registry, no, still not on. Show private on, off. Maybe it just needs to thing. Anyway, that completes the tutorial, guys. Right, guys, we come outside, and this is where you are effectively on your own. The game kind of leaves you hanging here. As I say, you do have the missions, but from now on you are in creative mode. You do what you want to do, because as I said in the initial description, this is a sandbox game with a very strong building element, and if you're into something being a very, very mission led games, this is where you might stall, guys, because you could stand here and say, what am I going to do? Well, the things, what you would be doing is you'd be back to here, because obviously what you'd want to do is start to create things here. You need to build up elements here. What's it? You certainly would need a large constructor to open up other options. Where is it? You would certainly need to get a multi-tool, and you can see we need to start making electronic components and electronics. So where would you find that? It can be a bit come on. So we'd need metal pieces, we'd need a couple of electronics, is it metal pieces, metal components, and then as that builds up we will be able to make a multi-tool. Multi-tools, as it says, the multi-tools are used for removing, repairing, changing and rotating and upgrading. So you'd certainly want a multi-tool. Of course you'd need to start getting fuel and ammunition, and you also would need to start defending your base, because there are aggressive elements within the game, in the sense that you can get attacked by drones once you've got your base operational. Although I think that's when you build your own base. I think this is safe, like a neutral territory, you're kind of accepted, but once you start building your own bases you can get attacked by drones. You can also explore the planet and find points of interest, native villages, and like you've got up here you've got TS Aku, which is a kind of admin base defended by turrets. Anyway guys, I think I've rambled on quite long enough. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask. I will try to answer them. And the other thing I will say is that on YouTube there's some really fantastic videos about what you can and can't build in this game, and I think some of them are really worth looking at, but please be aware that some of them are now dated, so they will be doing things and talking about things which are no longer part of the game. This game has come on in quite substantial leaps and bounds in the last 6 months to a year. And say guys, I can just stand here and watch the sunrise come up. Look at this. I mean, it just comes up really, really good. And what I will say guys is, if you want to see more, I'm prepared to do it. See the god rays coming through the trees? It's really, really great. The sun coming up. I think I'm just going to go out and watch the sun come up actually. Let's see if we can get out the trees while I'm talking. It is really, look at that. I mean, and the sun coming up over, look at that, it's great. Grab some honey on the way through. Look, I mean, they've done such great things with the graphics compared to when the game first started. And I'm getting distracted guys. I think this is where I'm going to leave it. If you want to see more, feel free to leave a comment. I will make videos, but I'm not going to make a blow-by-blow let's play. As you can see, that there's quite a lot of grind in this game, but I'm quite prepared to make videos on certain aspects, like maybe where I'll do one on building, base building, craft, building ships, maybe doing a bit of exploration. And I think this is where I'm going to wind the video up, with this view of the sun coming up over the trees with the nice reflections on the lake. I wish Nowhere Sky had sorted their water out a bit better like this, but I can't complain. And this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you've enjoyed the video, hope you found it interesting, and until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.